Welcome back to All Wizards Talk podcast on the All Sports Talk Network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Bryson Akins, joined alongside, as always, by Henry J. Brown. And Joshua Valdez now joining us as a co-host for the rest of the time that we do this podcast, as long as he wants to be with us. Hopefully he doesn't leave. Please don't leave. Don't ever leave. We enjoy having you around. We had an episode lined up for yesterday on the 3rd, and then, I left. I was like, okay, I can post this tonight. When I get back, I'll have some time to edit it. As soon as I leave, get to the golf course an hour after we get done recording, a trade happened. And all of yesterday, it was talking about when is Dawkins going to wake up. And it's safe to say he finally woke up. It's safe to say he finally made a decision, woke up a little bit. Now he's actually doing stuff with his team. I know Henry has some thoughts about the trade. I know Josh and I are pretty much on the same page about it as well. But they traded for DeAndre Ayton, and it's not like he's going to be a starter. He's going to be a perennial backup for this team. The occasional spot start with injuries, happening so often. But Henry, what were your initial reactions to this trade? Because I think everyone needs to hear this.
It's a good trade. I wrote the instant trade reaction as a B+ because, to break it down for everyone, they traded for DeAndre Ayton in the final year of his contract for 2 second-round picks to be spent in the 2030s, and Jaden Hardy, who is a piece of shrapnel from the AD trade, not a whole lot of DC ties, spent like 30 games in Washington, put up decent numbers, but didn't need him. And they got Ayton, and I think it's good. If you're going to get a backup center, getting a career starter who is at sort of a low point in his career and how he's being perceived, some of his numbers, but he's still going to put up numbers next to a great point guard. And if you have an entry passer who can find him, then that's awesome. I just had a bit of bristle to me afterward because I haven't been a fan of some of the way he's played in the past. Some of the way he's developed compared to his talent has left me a bit disappointed before. But given the role he's in, and given the franchise's willingness to bet on someone coming off a high-stakes Lakers stint after a few disappointing stops, I get it. It's sort of a rehabilitation thing. People are talking about whether he'll be motivated, whether he will give the franchise the muscle, the rebounding, the finishing that they need. And I think he could. I understand the vision.
Okay. I at least you understand it. You weren't happy about it. I'm going to be honest. In our group chat, there were definitely some conversations to be had.
I never took anything away from the move. It was pertaining to, I don't know. I watched a lot of Ayton over the years, and it was how can
he's not
what are we really getting?
To watch.
No, but given the fit he's in, I'm excited. I
it's
think
a good
that
fit.
I see it, and it could work.
It's
started 72 games last year, and he
Right.
led the playoffs in rebounding, offensive rebounding. It's worthwhile. It's a good buy low bet. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah,
He started 72 games on one of the better Western Conference teams last
They were
year.
4 seed.
Right.
It's not like he's a horrid center.
Right.
It's not like he's one of
No.
the worst in the league. Like,
No, he's been a double guy for his whole career.
It's literally because he got drafted number 1. That's the problem. Like that.
in the Luka draft, by the way, in the Luka and Trey draft, and like
he
it's just.
did not come close to matching that, and that's okay because he'll be a backup in DC.
But the thing is, like, he's been better than Marvin Bagley, who was the 2nd overall pick that draft, and a lot of people wanted Bagley over Ayton.
I always forget that.
Yeah, and they both, they're not. I think people throw on the term draft bust way too liberally. I don't classify either of them as draft bust. I think that they both didn't meet their expectations at first, but the fact that we're now nearly a decade into both their careers and they're both functional rotational players means that I'm going to hesitate to say that you were some kind of waste of a pick, even if neither of them are Luka. Let alone Trae
It's
Young.
not a waste of a pick. It's just the fact where they were drafted.
It.
It's the fact where they were drafted, where it's like you expect them to be more than a rotational piece. You expect them to be a bona fide starter.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I've had criticisms of some of Ayton's approach, some of the effort, some of the consistency stuff, but at least I took some looking at some of his shooting numbers recently, and he does, for some of his faults, have a good idea of where he should be on the court. He is taking more shots than ever between 0 and 16 feet. He cut out some of the super long twos that he was shooting on the Chris Paul Suns, and I think if you're talking about someone who's going to back up Sarr at the 5, maybe complement AD at the 4, maybe split minutes with Sarr, He's someone who's going to work well with Trae Young. He's one of the more prolific rim finishers in the league. He is, I think, the all-time leader in field goal percentage for players who have attempted like 5 shots per game for their careers. He finishes plays, and I get it. I get it.
I mean, there were some interesting stats around him. Like, for example, he had the highest rim field goal percentage with rim field goals attempted in the NBA last season at 80.1% on 312 attempts. That is
Here's a reason to believe is because last year he took a step down in his averages as a scorer and as a rebounder, which is funny because his backup with Jackson Hayes, who, isn't exactly Shaq, but even if his role scaled down a bit, he's farther from being at the epicenter of a team than he's ever been. And yet he's still finishing more of his shots. So there's a reason to believe this guy in a smaller role can keep continuing that trajectory as someone who keeps doing his job, even though he's no longer the third best player in a finals team.
Yeah. He's a good, like, he's a good rotational piece. It's not like he's some scrub where it's like, why did they trade for him instead of going after so and so? Because when we were talking about in the unreleased episode, it's like you didn't really have options this year for centers. There really weren't
like
many.
Kevin Love and Tillman and the other guys we were talking about, it's not close.
I mean, yeah, the Knicks got Andre Drummond like a couple hours after this trade or whatever, on a like $4 million 1-year deal. Like if and if you think he would have been so much better for this team, fair enough. But I think it's kind of splitting hairs.
It's definitely splitting hairs. Where like for me, the reason for Drummond, it was like, okay, he's a little bit cheaper, and I feel like you could use that trade to get a slightly better piece potentially than Ayton. Ayton's still a good player. It's just like if Drummond, all it took was $3 million to sign one of the best rebounding bigs in the NBA. Like we were mentioning yesterday, he averaged 8.4 rebounds off the bench for Philly. That is crazy for someone coming off the bench to do that. Like
and
absolutely
been around
wild.
as long.
Yeah, and like it's just one of those things where it's like, if that's what it took, I would have tried throwing him like $5 million and be like, hey, come on over for $5 million, be our backup center, the occasional spot start in case injuries happen here, instead of going to New York where it's like, okay, yeah, you're the backup center, but it's really like you're getting 10 minutes a game, like, and so try to like lure him over, and then you can do a different trade to try to get a, potentially a better player. Include Hardy, maybe even D'Lo in a trade to be like, okay, let's get a real backup point guard here. Let's do that. But there are also backup point guard options in free agency still around.
There are. And Josh, I know that you didn't give it a perfect grade because you talked about them not getting a longer term option. Was that something that you were still looking at?
Yeah. I gave it the same as you. I gave it a B plus. Because I did want them to get another first round pick this year. I kind of got killed online because I was like, they should trade like Champagnie and like a bunch of picks to get to like number 10 or something and get one of those guys that, like Morris Johnson and one of those guys, and people were like, oh, it's too much. And it's, I guess the front office agreed with the fans because they didn't want to give, they didn't want to, they kind of went the cheap route. They basically got, they're trying to get like their value on the dollar, trying to get a really talented guy for, not much of a price. So fair enough. I mean, it's a good Band-Aid. This is a 1-year situation. The long term, it's very much a question mark, the backup center. But, you don't have to solve everything long term in one offseason either. So it's fine.
I agree.
So, yeah, I think it's fine what they did. And I don't think this is like the most profound, move ever. I just think that they did well considering the situation, that they didn't get another pick in the draft. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand not wanting. You talked about how not every long-term solution has to be patched immediately, especially given AD's situation that has looked a bit tenuous at times. So it's hard to figure out the backup situation if you don't even know like the starter's long-term plan. Yeah. And especially considering, again, they gave up nothing to get this guy. Right. And I give them a lot of credit for that, especially, looking around at the free agency options. And, the expiring contract making about the same money that we're talking about for Drummond. He's on the hook for like $5 or $6 million this year. That's chump change for the potential production you could be getting, especially considering the way his last few contracts have ended. I looked at some of the timeline for Ayton and his last 2 teams before Phoenix, which also had sort of weird ending. If you guys remember, he almost left for Indiana on like a super like 4 or 5 year deal under restricted free agency, but then Phoenix matched it, kept him. It was awkward for like a year. He leaves for Portland. In the second year there, he gets waived before his contract ends. This time in the Lakers, he re-signs on a 2-year deal and buys into the player option in the second year. Like 4 days later, gets traded to Washington. So he hasn't gotten to see out a contract in actually several years. And given the lower stakes, given the change of scenery, I'm gonna say it again. I understand the bet, given that this guy has been through a lot, and maybe this will be different.
Maybe it'll be different. If he ends up coming out, let's say off the bench, Henry, he's averaging 8 and 5 for you off the bench with a block per game on some good efficiency. Let's say he's shooting 62% from the field. All right. Would you extend him and keep him as the backup big long term?
I'd be open to it, and I'd actually expect higher numbers because he's such an offensively tilted big who the point guards are going to look for at all times, and he, is pretty good on the boards, even if it'll be harder for him to meet his old numbers in a minimized role. I'm certainly open to extending him if depending on how this year goes, how comfortable he is in DC, how he mixes alongside Sarr, because that's the guy you're looking at right now. Like Sarr is the piece you're trying to complement if you're anyone else in the front court, because I'm not counting AJ as a front court guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about how he sounds, how excited he is to be here, and most importantly, how he feels about his role in this situation.
I think that's because it's like, okay, also if he has a really good year, like is he gonna buy into a long-term backup role? So because I feel like this might be another one of the Wizards' many situations where they're just kind of rehabbing a vet, and because it makes sense for the team, so that's why they're doing it. But it's also like if Ayton has a really good backup year and the team does well, he might try to start somewhere else again.
Yeah, it could be like this could be his diving board back into relevance. Maybe some other team is gonna bite and be like, oh, nice, he's become a different kind of player after all this time, and buy on that. So he could be looking at that as, what do I have to gain from this outside of the team context? And that's the thing we haven't even talked about that much is I know we're going to talk later about how the Wizards fit into the East following all this crazy trading and free agency so far. But this is the first time. Actually, I haven't actually checked, but it feels like the first time that the Wizards get a player and lose the picks and don't get any back because they're showing, probably AD is probably pumped about this, how you're seeing.
He has multiple centers that are going to be out there on the court with him now.
Yeah, and you're going to be more competitive. This isn't the kind of move you make if you don't take on the money and lose the picks if you're trying to keep going for the draft pick or not be interesting.
I mean, that's what they do with AD too. So,
but at least with AD, well, I guess, yeah, you're right. So I knew I was missing something because they didn't get any picks back in there. They lost like a few fringe picks.
Yeah, so they
it was 30th overall.
30. Yeah, 30th
yeah,
overall.
And then
I'm forgetting something. Thank you.
And a top 20 protected Warriors pick, where it's like the odds on, the odds on that one, it's like, shoot, if it falls outside the top 20, then it's one of those picks where it's like, did you really want to keep it? You probably try to package it anyways to get a player.
Yeah.
And
so better than the assets that they lost in the Ayton trade, but on that same sort of thing where this isn't really as exciting as it might look when you're first getting the Shams notification.
Yeah, right. I am curious. I do want to see Ayton and Sarr lineups just because I'm curious to see if they can play together on the court, see how they mesh, especially if in the future you don't keep AD, but you do want to run double big, just to see how Ayton and Sarr can work, especially as a more budget-friendly option.
Yeah, I agree, because if we're talking about the differences between Sarr and Ayton, Sarr has been a bit skinnier. Ayton has always had the physique. He had the look. It's how he got picked number 1. Mm-hmm. He was just like a man among boys at Arizona. And even though he is the most, I said offensively tilted earlier, he is the most of the bigs in that regard. Not as much the defender as Sarr or AD, but also, as you said, a prolific finisher at the rim. He isn't a shooter. He's never been much of a shooter. Like at his peak, he was shooting like 3% of his shots from 3. It's down to 0. He doesn't take any threes at all. Like even as I said, the long twos are gone. And before we talked about potentially putting one of AD or Sarr in the corner at all times, you don't really have that option now with Ayton. He's gonna go to the box. He's gonna, try to seal his guy, put his hand up, and you have to be more creative with how you're gonna switch around the big guys if you're running those double big lineups, which I assume they will.
Which you might take inspiration from some of these teams that are running double big right now, like
Like
OKC
Cleveland.
had OKC and Cleveland really like brought it back to kind of see like, okay, especially if you have a center that can play offense out on the perimeter. And Sar is not no godsend from, the 3-point line as a shooter or anything, but he has gotten better. And it's one
He
of those
takes
things
them, and he makes them sometimes.
where he can be, a decently reliable shooter from distance, shooting like 35%. If you have your center shooting 35% from three, I'll take that. I'll take that. And so it'd be interesting to see if you can kind of create that with him where his offense may open up a little bit more because now you can run double big out on the perimeter. It doesn't sound pretty to think about it, but pick and rolls with Alex Sar and Ayton, it could be something to look at. It definitely could.
I agree, especially if you're talking about the jumbo lineup. The Wizards just keep getting bigger, and that's something to be excited about too.
Well, I think a combo that might be actually more pretty is Trae Young and Ayton, because those two.
Yes.
Because
match made in heaven with lobs. So.
Well, and another stat that I was going to bring up as well is the leaders in alley-oop field goals made per game was Deandre Ayton with 102, and he converted 90% of his alley-oops. And so that is very impressive. So being with Trae Young on that right there, let alone whether it be a dunk like you want it to be, Henry, or it be a layup, I don't care. As long as the ball goes through the hoop, it's still 2 or 3 points to me. Like it doesn't matter. I just want to see it go through. And he's converting alley-oops at that high of a rate and got, made the most out of everyone in the NBA. That's pretty. I'll take that. It'll be good with Trae Young. Now it just comes down to someone on the bench becoming a little bit of a better passer, whether that is someone you go out in free agency and get via trade as well, because the Wizards could potentially still be looking out there to see other players that they can get to add. We never know with this front office. And so it'll be really interesting to see how he works with the bench, but I'm really excited to see that Trae Young and DeAndre Ayton fit.
Yeah, Gil Watch is back on. That roster spot is still open.
It's still open. I know Josh Robbins today said that he expects him to bring back Gil, and so that'll be interesting, even though I do think you could bring in someone with a little bit more value, but that's also me. I get the fans love Gil, and it's not like one of those things where it's like I am mad if they sign Gil to the last roster spot.
How could you be?
No, you can't be. It's just one of those things where it's like I'm looking at a matter of, putting together the best roster possible. There are just better options in free agency still.
The thing is that he brings value that you can't measure in like advanced stats. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that. And so, and that's why I said.
No, you go first. You go first. I have a question.
No, that's why I said the team could still potentially be looking at a trade. They could still be trying to move off D'Lo. Like
D'Lo is still on the team. That is very true. I was going to ask, are you still on Russ watch, or has your watch ended?
I'm still on Russ watch, but it really, especially if they want to bring back Gil, it depends if they trade D'Lo. That's the biggest thing. And so where it's like one of those things, or just find a way to get rid of him, whether it's a buyout, you trade him. Yeah, like waive him, whatever it may be. Like it really hinges on if D'Lo is on the roster to start the year.
Which he won't be though.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't. You just never know.
I mean, they literally told him not to report. Like, it's not like they're considering it.
Yeah.
Like,
this Wizards team is so weird. They have, is the count 3 former Lakers, and now 3 former number 1 overall picks.
And D'Lo was number 2 as well.
And so was Sar.
It is wild. It's just wild looking how it's all playing out. But no, that's the thing with me for like the Russ watch, where like it does sound crazy to say right now, but he's the best available point guard right now in free agency. It's him or Gabe Vincent.
Oh, Gabe Vincent is just a completely different kind of player.
Just
it just sounds.
Just being honest about it, it's like it comes down to who would you rather have as your backup point guard between the realistic like 4 options that are available that are the best out there: Gabe Vincent, Aaron Holiday, Russ, or Killian Hayes.
There's always another Holiday brother that we forgot about who's floating on free agency. This happens every year. Yeah. And it's funny, in our Lost Media episode, we definitely covered the Westbrook angle pretty heavily, but that's gone now. So we can just tell our whole thing again. Josh, I know you have some thoughts on the Westbrook thing. We talked about the jumbo lineups earlier. Want to give it again?
Yeah. I know that I understand why it's rational to want this team to sign a vet backup point guard who can actually run the floor. I just don't know. I think it might be counter productive for this team because I understand that they could probably run the floor better and maybe open up some looks for the bench. But I think I'd rather just give the minutes to, Will Riley and Bub, because I just feel like this team has so many young guys that they need to give minutes to see who's going to stick around, who's going to be traded, etc. And if you give a backup point guard, 15 and 20 minutes a game, he is cutting into that. I understand that he can help the team win more this season, but it's that balance of how much do you want to just go all in on winning a couple more games this season versus, okay, we still got to look at some of these young guys long term as well, So
Yeah, it's really the thing I'm going to keep bringing up this season is like the too many cooks thing.
yeah,
And Russ really just adds another guy who wants the ball. And as Bryson points out, he is one of the better options left in free agency, but that doesn't mean that he's the most versatile, nor would he be willing to give up the touches he does get in games. And Ayton isn't someone who like ever racks up the usage, even though he will want the ball. You're still talking about taking the ball out of guys like Keyshawn and Riley and Bub's hands, and
right.
that is if you really are now begging the question of how competitive do we want to be, how much do we want to assess the rebounding issues, and how much do you want to develop the other guys at the same time?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, I understand that Russ is going to be a better backup point guard than Bub and Will Riley and maybe even Keyshawn, because those other guys aren't really point guards, They just
Well, I
kind
also
of
see
play the
Keyshawn
role.
starting.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I know. But what I mean is Keyshawn could still run point in some like other
Yeah,
lineups.
I get what you're saying.
Because
But-
what fans have to remember is last season we saw a lot of these lineups that earned some criticism when they would they're called hockey lineups colloquially, just because that's when Keefe just takes out all the starters in like 90 seconds and puts in all the bench lineups. And Bryson, you asked earlier about how like Trey and Ayton have their minutes together. And I don't think we should be worried about that because they're not going to be doing that sort of thing anymore. When you have a competitive team, you're not going to feel the need to play those third stringers on the same schedule as everyone else. So, yeah, then Keyshawn can, in a platoon sort of setting, run some of the point as this big ball handler, as sort of a point forward when Trae Young isn't around.
Yeah, for me, it's not even having Russ as like the backup point guard. I think it's good value to have in case injuries happen, and we know injuries are going to happen. You never know who it's going to be, whether it be Trae Young, whether it be a few bench players. You never know who's going to get injured, who's going to get this freak injury that puts him out for a whole season. Stuff like this just happens in the NBA. We can't control it. I also just think it would be good for him to kind of put in like a mindset and help kind of see the game in a different way for some of the young guys. I think Bub could benefit really well from just learning from Russell Westbrook in practice. Learning just like how to go to the rim a lot more physical. Will Riley, I think, could also benefit from that. Just going to the rim, not being afraid of contact and leaning into it a little bit more. It's stuff like that is what I see for Russ. Not the in-game stuff, but really like what is he going to do in practice? What's he going to do off the court for the guys? Stuff like that is how I'm looking at it. Is he willing to take a mentorship role? No clue. It's also kind of comes down to, does he have a market anymore to be a rotational player in the NBA? It just comes down to that big factor. And if he does have a market to be a rotational player, he's going to go take that deal instead because he's going to want to keep playing. If not, it just wouldn't be a bad idea for Washington to bring him in on a mentorship role and be like, hey, just help our guys learn to be a little bit more physical and aggressive when they're going to the bucket. That's the biggest thing. Do that.
And get to the line and stuff like that. He was really helpful in his one and done season with guys like Denny and Rui. I remember there was like this clip that showed like, because they would, it's funny to say this about Denny now. He would never get calls as a rookie. Like he would just get hacked and the refs didn't care.
And a lot of it is angles. You have to know how to play to the angles.
Yeah, and he's a rookie. He doesn't understand how to like play the game within the game yet. And there was like Russ was showing like him and Rui. He's like, like put your hands out when you're getting hit. Show the refs there's contact happening here. And there's like that story about there was practice and he went to everyone else and he pointed to Beal and he's like, you know who this guy is? This guy is like the man in this team. So he's good at putting that culture in. So there's nothing to take away from him as a locker room guy in this kind of setting that you're describing.
Yeah, definitely a good locker room guy. The question is if he has like a 30% usage rate, it would just be a little much, I think.
That's the question.
No,
Can he buy
I
into
get what you mean.
role?
I get what you mean. It's just for me, it's purely the locker room presence and helping out the young guys on this team. Because even in Sacramento last year, there were multiple times he was defending all of the young guys towards the media, online, wherever it may be. Just kind of tell them like, hey, don't listen to the narratives, nothing like this. You're still doing good. And anytime media would criticize the young guys, he would instantly come to their defense anytime he's getting interviewed. Like instantly, it was like, he's a rookie. What'd you expect from him to do? He's going to make mistakes, stuff like that. It's good to have someone like that in your corner, helping you out constantly throughout the season. And like I said, he's going to teach players how to get to the line, which, do you guys know who led the team in free throw attempts per game last season?
No, the Wizards?
Yeah, for the Wizards.
No.
Are we counting like CJ?
No, we're counting players that played 20 or more games.
Well, CJ played that, but I'm assuming it's not him.
Yeah,
right?
no, not him. Bilal Coulibaly at 3.6 a game.
Oh,
Yikes.
3.6 was your leading free throw attempts. Trae Young was at 4.2, but he only played 5 games.
yeah, of course.
But like that's a problem in itself. And I think, especially at this last role, it would be nice to bring in someone that can teach your guys how to get to the free throw line, how to be more aggressive when driving as well. And with the options left, Russ is the best player out there to kind of teach you how to do that. And so it's stuff like that where this last roster spot, you kind of have your rotation already set when you're looking at it. You have your 11, 12 guys where it's like, yeah, they're playing, night in, night out. Maybe this 11, 12 guy overtake the 10th and 9th guy because we want to get a different look. We're still experimenting a little bit early on in the season. But, that 13 through 15 guy, it's like, you really got to show us something if you want to play. And it turns into like, just come out, help us out a little bit more with the rookies, young guys, teach them how to do certain things within the game.
It's what good teams do. They deploy options. They show that we have multiple looks we can go to. And now the question is, now that you have a good idea of who's going to play on the Wizards and how often they're going to play, how good are the Wizards? And we did talk about this last night behind the scenes of how to contextualize the Wizards within the East. And I know, Bryson, I think you're a bit higher on the Wizards outlook than Josh and I. You want to give your pitch?
Much higher. My thing is, I think the East, outside of the top 3 teams, is just a crapshoot. There's so many variables.
Who are the top 3 to you? Because that sounds pretty defined.
To me, right now, I view the top 3 as New York. I view Philly in that top 3. And then, oh man, I think I still got to go Boston in that top 3 just because they are deep. They are still a very good team. They added Mitchell Robinson as a backup center. That is a great option for them. While still having Kata, Peyton Pritchard, Tatum, White. They still got good role players in Baylor Shireman. Hugo Gonzalez has been doing very well in FIBA games as well, even though he was untouchable in Giannis talks, which is just outlandish. Just absolutely crazy to think about.
I can't believe they did that. It's the sequencing of they did that and then they traded him to Philly for 2 firsts. And
Paul George. And like, it's not like, is Paul George way past his prime? Yes. But Paul George is still a good 3rd, 4th option to have on your team.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, knowing how – also, I do agree with that, by the way. I can see Paul – after last year, when he was good, when he played, it's in the cards. It's not like a lost cause. So I'm going to give other teams, compare him to the Wizards for you. And Josh, I want to hear your thoughts on this too. So that means that you're saying the Wizards, you have them above the Pistons, correct?
No, I did not say I have him above. I think it is a crapshoot where this 4 through like 11 range – it could be really like any team. It is going to be very competitive in those margins, and it comes down to variables because we still have some free agency stuff going on. There are still some really good forward options out there. We still have trades that are going to happen. Injuries are also going to happen. With the Raptors, my biggest concern is Kawhi going to stay healthy like he did this season, or are you going to get Kawhi that you saw for the past 3 years? That's my biggest question with the Raptors. Which Kawhi are you getting? Their success really, like it hinges on, can Kawhi stay healthy like he did last season, or was this a one-off thing?
Here's sort of my take on that. I actually don't think Kawhi is as integral to what they're doing as he was in LA or even the first Raptors stint, just because they were built on that team-style defense and just being quietly pretty deep, thick, full of a lot of wing depth. He's just to me, replacing the Ingram role, not so much the top wing defender role.
Yes, but to replace it, you got to make sure he plays. That's my biggest concern.
Sure he plays, of course, but at least he's not alone at the top of the depth chart.
No, they still got Scotty. They still got Scotty, who is a very, very good player. I love Scotty's game. I think he's fantastic. They still got Quickly, at their point guard role, who is like, he's a solid option. He is, they still got RJ. Like they still got players there. It's just you're like, if Kawhi is hurt, your top three of Scotty, RJ, and Quickly isn't really going to do like they'll win you games. You'll be above 500, but it's not like it's a team where it's like, ooh, this is a really good team. Do you get what I'm saying?
But Bryson, you can say that for any team, though.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's why I said it really hinges on a ton of variables.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like, I am not confident in this 4 through 11 range yet because we still have so much going on.
I guess
the Heat have a depth problem, and like they still need to figure that out.
I guess it's better to say, like, let's assume that there's major injuries to stars. Like, who do you have?
If there are major injuries to stars, and when I say stars, I'm thinking like Kawhi for the Raptors. I'm thinking AD, which I think is just bound to happen for the Wizards. Stuff like that. I could see the Wizards finding themselves in that 5 through 7 range.
So, Josh, which teams do you have in a sort of a tier where you're assuming they'll be ahead of the Wizards, even though they could be in the mix?
Yeah, it's pretty much all the teams who have like gotten past the first round recently. So like the Knicks, Boston, the Pacers, assuming Hallie's fine. Philly, Cavs. There's I know there's a couple others. Oh, the Detroit Pistons, of course. Is there one I'm forgetting?
Well, that's the thing. After that, you're getting into a few teams who you guys could make cases for the Wizards being better. How do you gauge them against, say, like the Hornets or the Heat?
Yeah, that's where I feel good. Like I think so. Like Bryson said, Miami, they don't even have a team right now. It's like Giannis and Bam. I don't even know who's gonna start. Like I don't even know what they're doing. So
they brought back Wiggins. They brought back Wiggins, but like that's
but
move
still,
that they've made so far besides Giannis.
Yeah. Like they haven't even gotten Norman Powell back, right? So
and I don't even think they can afford him.
He went to Chicago.
Oh yeah, Chicago? He did. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that's crazy.
Crazy couple days.
Yeah. That got lost in the sauce there. Yeah, so I'm not taking Miami that seriously yet. I think they probably need like another year to like build the team out around Giannis and Bam.
And the case for what you're saying is also how well the Wizards have played Giannis last year or two. Granted, you could also point to the Bucks' pretty poor team-wide context when talking about how alone Giannis was, and now you're pairing him with the guy who just dropped an 83 bomb on their head. So that could be a very fun play and match for all we know. And same goes to the Hornets, who now they sort of lost the head of the snake in LaMelo, but they look pretty deep with shooters, and there's a case you made that they too can sort of rise up or stymie.
My thing is for the Wizards, they should be at minimum a play-in team. Like you need to be a play-in team this year. No matter what, you have to finish somewhere in that 7 through 10 range. I just think 5. Yeah, I just think you have the potential with this team to really shock a lot of people and win 47 something games, 48 something games, and all of a sudden be the 6th or 5th seed and not have to worry about the play-in. That's where my thought process comes in, where it's like I see 3 teams clear ahead of everyone else in the East right now, and a lot of people, it still hinges on what are they doing in free agency. They got to retain some players or go out there, add some depth. They also got to make some trades if they want to be serious as well, because what they need isn't in free agency right now, especially for teams that might need a backup center. And so that's where it comes down to me, where it's like I can't properly rank this 4 through 11 right now before the season because there are just so many variables at play right now. But I do see the team just having that potential to be like a 5th seed, like highest is what it is.
I got you. Yeah, I was gonna say the team I forgot about before was the Raptors. So that was I think I forgot the Raptors.
Okay.
Basically, my list is Knicks, Sixers, Pistons, Celtics, Pacers, Raptors, Cavs. That's who I think will finish ahead of the Wizards.
The Cavs are interesting. That's one that we talked about.
Yeah, the Cavs. Yeah, like it's just
they're probably still going to be. I mean, James Harden is a regular season warrior. They're still pretty big. The LeBron watch is still on, so they're like one of the bigger question marks remaining. But given the Wizards, similarly, even more weirder ceiling, we'll keep our eyes on that one.
Yeah, and some of it just depends on if some of these young Wizards guys did develop and progress a little bit in the offseason. I think a lot of it depends on, did Trey Johnson evolve more than just being a shooter? Did he evolve more from that? Can Will Riley lead the bench unit as a point guard? Can he do that? Did Bilal really improve his shot? Stuff like that. The starting 5 I'm not necessarily worried about a starting five of Trey, Keyshawn, AJ, AD, and Sar. That's a damn good starting five. All
It's not
right.
bad.
It's like that is very nice. It comes down to, did the players on the bench develop enough to really make this a playoff team in the East? And so, like I mentioned, there's just so many variables where it's like it's really hard. It's contingent on a lot of stuff. But I am confident that if all goes well for the Wizards, you can see them finish, upwards to a fifth seed. If all goes well.
If all goes well, that's a good ceiling to attach to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fifth seed. If everything that we're talking about tilts within their favor, which does happen sometimes, there are teams that do get lucky and everything falls into line at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Raptors were a fifth seed last year. I don't know if anyone had that happening, so you never know.
No, it's just one of those things. And you also have the Pacers, who everyone just isn't talking about right now, who are going to get Halliburton back with Zubac and Pascal. Like, that is still going to be a really good team in the East if Halliburton doesn't miss a step coming back from injury, because he's had now what is going to be a year and a half to recover. I mean, if he doesn't miss a step, comes back and is the same old Halliburton, that's also another team in the East where it's like, ooh, they look nice, they look deadly.
Yeah,
And
tough
so,
time to be an up and coming team in the East, right when it's wresting some control back from the West.
it used to be
for the
all
first time
about
in
the
30
West.
years.
It used to be
Yeah.
all about the West, where it's like up and coming. It's like, you really got to worry about this team out here. You got to worry about this. It's just so tough. In the East, where it's like, if you win 35 games, you're in the playoffs. And now
Right.
it's like, if you want to be in the play-in, you got to win 42. You got to go above 500.
Yeah, just to avoid being a bottom 5 team.
Yep. And so it reminds me of when I watched the Thunder win 44 games and miss the playoffs. Like that.
That's crazy.
That's
Like,
tough.
I think you're seeing that in the East now, where like you will see teams well above 500 miss out because they had to play in the play-in.
And that happened in the East last year. If you remember, it doesn't look like anything special on paper if you look back at the standings, but every Eastern play-in team couldn't lose a game for like a month and a half. Like the Hornets, if you guys remember, were just, of course we all remember how good they were, but everyone else was winning right alongside them, and they couldn't actually get any ground on anyone because the Heat were always on their tail. The Hawks were hot to close the season. The Magic ended up figuring a lot of stuff out. So now you're just outrunning everyone if you're in that same sort of zone.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like I said, it's not that I'm saying that I think the Wizards are a for sure top 5 team in the East. It is one of those things where it's like, I think we have 3 clear front runners in the East right now to be the top teams, and then the rest, there's just so much stuff that they are contingent on happening. Like I said with the Raptors, where it's like, although they have a good team going on, if Kawhi has to miss extended periods of time, it's really hard to have a successful regular season when, like you are relying on that, what I just view as an average defense and offense at that standpoint. Be like, yeah, this is a top 4 team in the East. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but it could happen. It makes
Yeah.
sense what you're saying. Everyone saw Josh's Knicks win it all, and they said, we can't let this happen again.
I mean, the Knicks did break the league though. It's kind of crazy. I mean, it's like everyone just like got really upset and just traded their whole teams away.
Everyone
So
locked in.
everyone just but here's the thing though. I'm not at least in the East, I'm not really putting anyone above New York. Are you guys? Like
I understand. They're the reigning champs.
No,
and-
yeah, I'm not. New York's one. Yeah. The only
And
team
they
that
did
can
the
come
same
close at
thing.
the moment is Philly.
Yeah, exactly. Philly's like the wild card out East, especially considering, and for the Knicks case, they won everything by doing what they did all season. Is they were down 10 every other game, and they won all of them.
the thing is
And
now
they're
the
hard to kill.
Knicks kind of found that vibe with Cat as the hub, and they have more chemistry now and all that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think last year was kind of like a disappointing regular season for them. They were still third, so if they just keep playing like they did in the playoffs, they'll be first probably.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I think
like
the
like I
only
said,
domino
the
to fall
only
is LeBron.
team that I see dethroning them for one, like being the top team in the East, is Philly, because anytime you turn 38-year-old Paul George into Jaylen Brown, that's a good trade.
38.
Yeah,
And,
and they could get LeBron. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's a
like-
serious chance. So
and so there's just so much that teams are contingent on happening. Like I mentioned with the Heat, where it's like, yeah, they got Giannis, but it doesn't matter if you're playing a two-way guy as your seventh man.
yeah, the Heat, I really don't see it right now. Like I think
They need a
like,
bench. They don't have one.
Yeah, like I've seen people say like they can make the playoffs. I'm just like, guys, I don't know.
They
Like,
can definitely make the playoffs. I mean, like
I don't.
They have a good pairing in Bam and Giannis, but it's like, shoot, your eighth man right now is Drew Smith.
You still need a team though, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's
Like-
like,
And it's funny, this was the kind of thing we could shoo aside a few years ago when we would say, the Heat just figured it out in like 2023. It's like they'll find a way. And it's been a few lean years now, especially by their standards. No finals trips, no like series wins. Last year they missed the playoffs altogether, and now they traded half their team. But to me, it's like I'm honestly I was when the first Giannis trade happened, I was like, dang, they lost half their bench. And then I was like, they're also a 10 seed. So how important was it? So now it's just a matter of which Heat guys they're gonna create.
well,
during
like
the
with the
season.
Heat, their starting five is Davion Mitchell, Nikola Jovic, Bobby Portis, Giannis, then Bam. Like, that's not a bad starting five.
Wiggins?
I don't have Wiggins as a starter for this team. That's just me,
What?
though.
He's the third best player on the team.
I think he'd do better on a bench role for him.
Really?
But I mean, he could also start. Then you have Jovic go to the bench. One of those two.
Jovic is not. Jovic isn't there. I have a good friend who watches a lot of Heat games, and I've watched a few with him. I don't think Jovic is a guard. First off, but
that is the problem though. Like, if we're going like pure guard, Tim Hardaway Jr. is their starting two guard.
That makes more sense to me.
And so, but it's just one of those things where I'm looking at it was where like outside of the starting five, the bench kind of drops off a little bit. Where like they still got Pele Larson, who didn't do bad.
He's good. That guy's
he's good. But I mean, as your sixth man, I mean, you're just not going to win a lot of games with him as your first off the bench.
You are stretching it a bit. With Pella, I mean, Bobby's okay. He can hit some threes sometimes. He's a little streaky. And yeah, you're right. After that, we are talking about some real digging through the weeds of Heat guys.
If they get an injury or two, this team is just done. Is what it is.
And this is a Giannis team, and he hasn't been, Mr. Attendance recently.
Yeah.
Mr. Attendance.
And
yeah, he's no Bob Carrington.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that for me. And like with the Raptors as well, like, yeah, they got Kawhi Leonard. Like, that's great. He's still a really good player for his age. But if he goes down, you still pretty much have the same starting five minus Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not much of an improvement. You still have Jakob on your team who, like, he's decent, but like, one of the worst contracts. Yeah, one of the worst contracts in the NBA. He's not $20 million.
And no more Mamu.
And no more Mamu. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, man, like, it's like Alan Graves is going to be like their seventh or eighth guy, and you really got to hope he shows up.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's why with the Raptors, I'm very, I think it's very Kawhi contingent for them. That's why I view it as that. The Bucks are out of the picture. The Bulls, I think, are out of the picture as well.
The Bulls could be fun. I'm actually keeping a
They could be a fun team to watch, but I don't see them making the play-in. I see them finishing like 13th in the East.
Yeah.
I think they'll be a little better than that. They made a lot of fun signings, and they had a great draft.
I don't know, because
I think they're good long term. They're a lot better off long term.
Long term, they are good. This year, though, I mean, just looking at the East, because the Southeast Division, it's a bloodbath of, we know it. It's Atlanta, Charlotte, Miami, Orlando, and Washington. That's a bloodbath of a division right there.
We have not mentioned Orlando yet, by the way. I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, and Orlando's still good. They're still out there. That's why I view the Bulls. Like, do I think they're going to be better than the Bucks? Yeah. And then you have the Nets, who you have a team led by Michael Never Swing the Rock Porter and Dubious Handle.
This is funny. This is actually Josh had seen recently how he sees this as sort of an upside of some of Adam Silver's most recent lottery reforms, is that we have now named every team in the East, and it's really hard to pick the teams who are clearly going to be bad. Everyone's going to be trying, and there.
Oh no, we can pick the teams that are clearly going to be bad, even if they try.
But I think if we're comparing this year to last year, those are completely different situations.
Yeah, it won't be the tank where it's like everyone's trying to have less than 20 wins. Yeah, like it's not like that.
But we still know which teams are going to be bad.
You know who's not going to make the playoffs, and you have that. But I just don't think there's going to be the same level of 17-win, 18-win Wizards Nets sort of
like
things.
Even if the Nets are trying to win some games here and there, like, I still don't see them finishing with above 20 wins. I just don't. I don't like any of the young players that they have. Like, they don't have like good veterans to kind of lead, in my
You
opinion.
know, like a little Michael Brown.
The health.
You sort of like him.
It's the health. He plays with a lot of passion. I love it. I think he's a good player, but can he be healthy? It's that back, man.
Little Danny Wolf doesn't do it for you.
Oh God, no. God, no. Oh my goodness. A lot of them, it's just like Nolan Traore, like Yegor, who he's solid.
Last year's draft for them was just like, it was disgusting.
Yeah, I know you loved it, Josh. I can't wait for any of these guys to kill the Wizards, and I'm gonna totally steal this clip and make an edit of it, and you're not gonna know it was me that totally ratted you guys out.
It's just like
I'll take that bet because like I think the Wizards have drafted a gazillion times better than the Nets in recent years.
Well.
So
gazillion times. Gazillion.
yeah, it's not even close.
They took Ben Seraph. They took Ben Seraph in the lottery.
Not the lottery. That was
I'm pretty sure he was a lottery pick, no?
No, you know how I know he wasn't? Because he and Danny Wolf were picked back to back in like the late 20s.
It was the 20s. It was the 20s.
No way he was a 20th pick. No, like,
You're thinking of Traore, I think.
Yes.
even then, that's
No.
horrid.
Yeah, well, Saroff was one of the picks they got from McCall Bridges. So
Yeah. That's right.
Like-
Who was the other one? Was it Powell or
I always forget. It might have been Powell.
Okay.
None of them are good. So
They all
Like
sort of
Jesus,
run
I know,
together.
I know that 20, like I know that draft like didn't have insane depth towards the end, but you took 3 point guards in that draft.
and it's just that they drafted 5 players and none of them are that good. Like
Yeah, how'd you
Yegor,
miss on 5 players? How'd you miss on 5 players? How
Well,
did
here's the
one
thing.
not hit
I
in your first
actually-
year?
I did a TikTok about this because I liked some of the guys individually, but if you're talking about a team not getting 1 or 2, but 3 point forward types in Yegor, Traore, and Saraf.
Like,
on
dude,
the
just
same
trade
team.
down. What are you doing?
Dude,
man?
I am so serious when I say this. Their best young player is Day'Ron Sharp, and they just signed him back at 25.
Darren
years
Sharp's
old.
good. Yeah.
He's their best young player, but you like that should not be the case. You should not be having conversations of who is better, Noah Clowney or our lottery pick last year.
It'll be
You
Michael
should not be
Brown
having
Jr.
those
soon.
conversations. You should not be having those conversations.
It'll be Michael
Michael
Brown. Jr.
is a lot better than anyone they've gotten in this rebuild.
No, I'm not talking about Michael. I'm talking like, like last year, 2025.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you
you're
should
right.
not
I
be
think-
having those conversations.
listen, Nets Kings never would have had any motion over the last couple of years. But watching Michael Brown Jr. versus Acuff, I think will be interesting because that will be sort of the swinging door moment.
It
Yeah,
will.
because that was a debate. Like I was kind of leaning Acuff over Brown, to be honest. I know that Acuff obviously has his warts defensively and things, but
This team's just bad. It's just a bad team.
yeah, they are.
There's
suck.
no
gonna be
hope in
intrigued.
Brooklyn.
I think-
I'm being honest. There's no hope there. You better hope Michael Brown turns into a top 5 player in the NBA if you want hope.
I only say there's no hope because I don't think they have their pick next year. That makes it a
Well,
lot
they made
harder.
enough freaking picks in the past couple of years, so it makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's the thing. The odds evened out. So I
Right.
mean, they had their chances. We're totally
just-
gonna
I'm
get
just
killed
doing
if
the
they
math here. They
do
got-
anything against the Wizards.
1, 2, 3, 4.
But I'll take
5,
my bet
6.
of the Wizards.
Yeah, that's the
against
thing.
the
Seven.
We're
Nets.
taking the bet. But we're leaving like 8 minutes worth of.
They
clock.
got 7 players on rookie deals, and your best rookie
Wow.
deal player is Noah Clowney.
Clowney's not bad.
But that shouldn't be the case, Henry. You
That
drafted
shouldn't be the
5
case.
guys
That
in
should not be the case.
2025. How is Noah Clowney still your best guy?
And Clowney embarrassed the crap out of me. We were at one of the million Wizards Nets games, and I was sitting next to Ben Strober, of Locked On Wizards fame, and he was like looking at the roster, and he was like just shaking his head in disbelief. He was like, "Who are these men?" And I was like, I looked at Clown. I was like, Clowney's not bad because I liked him in the draft. I think he went to Bama. That 23 drafts had a lot of weird guys, and he shot like 2 for 12. I looked like an idiot, and he was like, "Was that your boy?" And it became one of those things. So now he's got to win me back.
Oh my goodness. It's just there's no hope there. Like at least we have hope. At least we have hope. We had the first overall pick. Alex Sarr looks great. All right. Like there is hope for Washington
Keyshawn,
at the
man.
minimum.
I think Keyshawn could be an all-star at some point.
I agree.
It just depends if he can actually like get the time and usage to kind of be an all-star. That's what, like, cause I mean, shoot, it's gonna be hard for him to kind of separate himself to be an all-star with going up against AD, AJ, and Trey, especially if Sarr, who's gonna get more
Yeah,
action.
well,
in this
not
trade.
next season. I'm
Yeah,
thinking
I
like,
Oh yeah, no, I'm talking future. Even for the future, it might be tough because like he may, and like this is no shade to him. It just goes to show you how good Washington will be in the future. Is like he might not be anything above a third or fourth option.
Yeah.
Does that make
And
sense? What I'm saying?
yeah, but I agree, I completely agree with what you're saying. With that said, I think if he proves here that he deserves the usage and the
Yes.
touches, he doesn't get them, he's getting it somewhere.
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's the thing. I don't think the Wizards are gonna allow that to happen because they know
Yeah.
how good he is. Like they're not gonna let him slip through the fingers. He's like we were saying before. We said in uh the piece that'll never come out that we recorded yesterday that Keyshawn is like their big win, of this whole front office because they found him, as like towards the end of the first round. Nobody really expected that much out of him, and then he kind of showed a lot. So,
And a really disliked draft. That's the important thing.
Right.
Like he would have been like the equivalent of a second round pick in some.
yeah, that was like a weak class, and they found him at the end of the first round. And like now he's like one of the better young guys in the entire NBA. If you're just, I mean, not stars, but just like better young.
As
like,
far as yes, as far
Yeah.
as savvy picks, you can make a case he was
Yeah.
one of, if not the savviest pick of the 24 class.
Right. Yeah. So.
But I think it's a good place to end, guys. I think.
Yeah, I think we have the Doc Please Wake Up episode has been replaced by
Doc has woken up.
Doc woke us up at 5:30 in the morning, shook our beds,
Or
kicked us out of the house, one
the
sock
Wizards
on.
are dominating the offseason.
One thing. What's the rotation if they sign a backup point guard? Because someone's gonna lose minutes.
That's
I
the problem
don't think-
with that.
It depends. Like, I don't think if you sign any backup point guard, the rotation kind of changes how I view it. Of like, your top. We've listed the starters already. Then off the bench, you got,
There's so many
your
guys
top,
at the bench. Though.
your top 5 off the bench. So it's right now. It's Bilal, JC, Trey,
Champagne.
Ayton. That's why I said JC. Yeah,
Yeah, he said JC.
Oh, yeah.
and then like it
And
comes down
Riley.
to Bub or Riley, one of those two. And then that last guy is your 11th guy.
I'd rather play Riley than Bub right now. So
I think I'm there too,
I agree.
even though I love Carlton. I love him. Ugh.
Yeah, it's a matter of if we're talking about the minutes dilution, there's Russ and there's every other point guard because he's such a unique case
Yeah.
that it's hard to scale that kind of guy down.
The only way a backup point guard that the team acquires gets minutes is if they get a good one through a trade. Because all the ones in free agency now are like you don't even play him above Bub, even though Bub's not really like your, typical point guard. He's more of a shooting guard in my opinion, more of a 2 guard.
he's
He's
combo.
combo.
Yeah.
And so but like that's the thing where it's like if they get a backup point guard who's supposed to get minutes, it's going to be via trade, not through free agency.
That's
I
fair because I don't think this team has any use for
Gabe
Vincent.
Vincent. Yeah, no, God no. But
I watch a lot of Lakers. I'm gonna leave it at that.
all right, thank you guys for tuning in, listening as always, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.